one of the Megyn Kelly shows, Megyn Kelly Today show actually, and this deals with genetic genealogies to solve previously unsolved crimes. And it's quite an interesting review here. It's quick and to the point, and let me get on the screen here real quick.
The case of the Golden State Killer had investigators baffled and citizens on edge. Then, just in April, former police officer Joseph DeAngelo was arrested and is now awaiting trial on murder charges. He's entered a not guilty plea. Or no, he hasn't yet entered a plea. But the break in that case came through DNA and genetic genealogy. And our next guest, Cece Moore, is a DNA detective of sorts. You've got to hear her story. She's become one of the leaders in this field. She is known to do a lot of her legwork from her couch, and it is groundbreaking work that could have huge implications for fighting crime. She's here. We'll speak with her in a moment, but first, watch this.
This should tell us which ones we can be more confident about.
This is Cece Moore sharing her passion, teaching a class on genetic genealogy.
There's no separation between those two populations.
For Moore, this all started as a hobby. She's helped thousands find their biological families and serves as the DNA expert on the PBS show, Finding Your Roots. But lately, she's taken on another important role, fighting crime.
It never once occurred to me that I would end up being involved in law enforcement in any way, and certainly not in helping to solve crimes.
Moore partners with a company called Parabon Nanolabs, which analyzes DNA samples left at crime scenes and then uploads their results to GEDmatch, a public genealogy website where people have already provided their own results from DNA tests.
Their DNA is being compared to 1 million people in the GEDmatch database.
After likely matches have been identified, then comes the puzzle, figuring out who the suspect might be by tracing the DNA of people potentially related to the person whose DNA was at the crime scene.
We build their family trees. So the people who share DNA with the suspect, their family trees are key to identifying him. I have to use traditional genealogical research, but I also have to use things like obituaries, newspaper archives, Google, social media.
The work is producing results. In the 3 months Moore has been with Parabon, 6 cases that she worked on have led to arrests, like the case in Indiana of 8-year-old April Tinsley, who was murdered in 1988. Police say she had been sexually assaulted and strangled. Over the years, the killer taunted the community by leaving threatening messages. Last month, police arrested 59-year-old John Miller, who has been charged now with murder and felony child molesting. He has pleaded not guilty. And the arrest of 55-year-old William Talbot last May for a 31-year-old cold case of a murdered young couple in Washington.
If it hadn't been for genetic genealogy, we wouldn't be standing here today.
Talbot, too, has pleaded not guilty.
Maybe if people realize that it's a lot harder to get away with murder than it used to be, they'll stop and think.
Cece Moore joins me now. Please welcome Cece. Thank you for being here. So can you try to explain it in, like, you know, third grade terms for me, because I didn't really follow it. I don't understand. This isn't 23andMe or Ancestry.com. It's a public, like, DNA website.
Right.
So how do people get connected with that? Why would they go on that?
Well, they have to have already tested at one of the consumer DNA databases, like Ancestry DNA. And then they download their raw data, and they have to upload it to GEDmatch. So
why would they do that? Why would they want to put it on the public domain?
It has some different tools that some of the companies don't. Also, if you test at 23andMe and I tested Ancestry DNA, and we want to compare our DNA, we can do that at GEDmatch.
So people willingly go to this public DNA website just for more information?
Yes.
And you're there?
I am there.
Okay.
I've been there since 2010, since inception.
So let's take me as a hypothetical example. Let's pretend I'm some sort of a criminal, but I've never submitted my DNA to any GEDmatch because I know I'm a criminal.
Right.
So how would you find me?
By your second, third, fourth cousins. So we're looking for people who share DNA with you. It doesn't have to be a lot of DNA. And then based on their family trees, I reverse engineer the tree of the criminal.
So let's say my second cousin did a ancestry.
Right.
They got a profile, but then they chose to make it public on this GEDmatch. Is that
Yes.
what it is? GEDmatch.com. So now we have some of the same bloodline, we have some of the same DNA, and how do you go about, like, how do you even find, like, my first cousin's named Jill. Let's take her. How would you know that Jill's got DNA that is related to a criminal?
Well, I'm a genealogist, so I'm used to building people's family trees. That's what I've done for many years. And so if your second cousin, say, was in the database, they would share about 3% of DNA with you. And so I would predict what the relationship is to the unknown subject or the criminal.
So you'd have to have my DNA from the crime scene.
Yes.
And you just don't know,
That's
who,
right.
like the John Benet Ramsey case.
Right.
There's DNA in that case, but we don't know who it belongs to.
Correct. So it's an unknown subject, and I'm trying to reverse engineer their identity from the people that are sharing DNA with them. And so a second cousin would share great-grandparents, so I would build that family tree of the known person back to great-grandparents, and then I'm building forward in time, trying to find the right person at the right time.
Right, like you look at the tree and you say, well, this family member died, this family member moved to Italy, like it can't be these certain people.
Yes, and it's not usually from just one cousin, so I can do what I call triangulating. I can say who from this family tree married someone from this family tree. So as I'm building forward, I'm looking for those intersections where your cousin and the other second cousin matches families combined.
So it's a combination of understanding DNA and just shoe leather detective work. I mean, you're a detective, really.
I guess I am.
You are a detective. She's been helping people find, like, their birth parents and things like that for years and helping them understand their ancestry. And now, since the Golden State Killer thing, she's turned her incredible skills on crime to the benefit of all of us. Now she's looking into some of the most infamous cold cases in history. And speaking of John Benet Ramsey, there are two in particular she's after now. That's next. So Cece Moore is helping law enforcement now across the country solve cold case murders and even more recent crimes. Welcome back, Cece. So there are 7 cases now that you've provided information that has led to an arrest. These are bad cases. I mean, bad cases. She is literally helping solve, or at least lead to arrest, and we'll see how it plays out in court. I want to ask you about Christy Merrick. She was murdered in 1992 when she was just 25 years old, severe blunt force trauma. She was strangled. The case was cold for all this time. And tell us what you did.
Well, the crime scene DNA was uploaded to GEDmatch, and then based on the people that were sharing DNA with that unknown criminal, I was able to point the police in the right direction to find him.
And when you found an identity of somebody you thought they should check out, you don't go check out the person.
No.
You say to the cops.
No. I just give them a tip.
Okay. And who was it?
It was a man named Raymond Rowe, who was very popular in his area, kind of famous, named DJ Freeze. He was a popular DJ for weddings, for clubs, and he was living what appeared to be this normal life, a wife and a child, had a really strong media presence, social media, so I could learn a lot about him. He had interviews online. So it was shocking to find out that this person was hiding such a deep secret.
He is now under arrest. No formal plea in his case yet. And then there was a recent case, the rape of an elderly woman, a 79-year-old, just this past April. I mean, just happened a few months ago. Right. Tell us what you did.
Well, so this one was different because it wasn't a cold case. This was potentially an active attacker. And so it was a lot of pressure to try to identify him before he struck again. So it's the same process. Again, that unknown DNA from the crime scene was uploaded to GEDmatch. On this one, it was actually very difficult. I used the DNA from lots of different cousins. I found where those families came together. And all of the matches were on the East Coast, and I needed to get it over to St. George, Utah, to a family there. And finally, those pieces came together, all of these different DNA from different families combined to this one family. And I was able to help narrow it down to the 4 brothers in that family.
Unbelievable. And an arrest was made in that case, too. Which, comes to the relief of the woman who had to worry about whether...
A wonderful woman.
Yeah, who had to worry. So what cases are you focused on now?
Well, I can't talk about current cases. They're
like old, but from old. Like I mentioned John Benet Ramsey. Is that
I would love
potentially
to
solvable?
Work. I don't know what DNA they have in the case. If they have DNA, I would love to work on that case. I followed it for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And what about like the Zodiac killings?
That's probably my number 1 case I would like to work. But I think they have a team that might already be working on it.
Oh, really?
I think
you're
so.
Trying to tell us something there.
Well, I know they were trying to extract DNA from the envelopes.
This is the future of crime solving, is it not?
Oh, I do think so. And I think we can make society a safer place and hopefully even cause someone to stop and think maybe it could be a deterrent. It's not so easy to get away with crimes anymore.
Right. Thank you for all your good work.
Thank you for having me.
It's amazing meeting you. I feel like we need about 1 million more just like you, and we'll all be the better for it. Cece, all the best to you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
And that's a quick review of the Megyn Kelly Show, and that's hopefully a lot more cases from the past will be solved with this new process of accessing the genealogical websites. And that'll do it.